The story of Deidre Lane is one of ice-cold calculation, betrayal, and the shattering of a family. It is a tale that lingers in the annals of Charlotte, North Carolina, haunting reminder of how greed and deception can fester in the most unexpected places. To the outside world, Deidre appeared to be a successful, loving wife, but beneath the surface simmered resentment, manipulation, and a dark plan that would culminate in murder. Deidre Lane grew up in Charlotte, a vibrant southern city filled with opportunities and ambition. As a young woman, she was intelligent, driven, and possessed an undeniable charm that made her popular among friends and colleagues. She married Fred Lane, a standout football star who played in the NFL as a running back for the Carolina Panthers and later the Indianapolis Colts. Fred's career brought fame and fortune, and together, they seemed to embody the quintessential power couple. To outsiders, they had it all: a beautiful home, financial stability, and a growing family. But beneath the glittering exterior of their marriage lay an undercurrent of dysfunction. Deidre was known for her extravagant lifestyle, a stark contrast to Fred's more modest upbringing. He was generous to a fault, indulging Deidre's every whim. Yet, as Fred's career hit its peak, cracks began to form in their relationship. Deidre's appetite for wealth and luxury seemed insatiable, and Fred's earnings, though substantial, could not keep up with her spending habits. Fred, by all accounts, was a devoted husband and father. But his increasing discomfort with Deidre's behavior caused tension in their marriage. Friends of the couple later revealed that Fred was contemplating divorce. He was deeply concerned about his financial future, as Deidre's extravagant lifestyle had already drained significant portions of their wealth. As 1999 turned into 2000, the pressure on Fred and Deidre's marriage escalated. Fred's NFL career was slowing down, and he was facing an uncertain future. At the same time, Deidre became increasingly erratic and demanding. She resented Fred for his attempts to rein in her spending and began plotting a way out of their marriage, but one that would leave her financially secure. Behind Fred's back, Deidre began researching life insurance policies and the potential payout from his untimely death. It was a cold, calculated decision, one rooted in greed and desperation. By the spring of 2000, Deidre had formulated a sinister plan to murder her husband and collect a $5 million life insurance payout. On July 6, 2000, Fred Lane returned home to Charlotte after visiting his father in Tennessee. He had spent the trip reflecting on his life and his troubled marriage. Fred hoped to work things out with Deidre for the sake of their young daughter, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Unbeknownst to Fred, Deidre had been preparing for his return in the most horrifying way. That day she purchased a 12-gauge shotgun, claiming it was for protection. Her true intentions, however, were far more sinister. She waited for Fred to come home, armed with the weapon that would seal his fate. At around 3:30 p.m., Fred entered their home, unsuspecting of the danger lurking within. As he walked through the door, Deidre ambushed him, firing 2 close-range shots. The first shot struck Fred in the chest, killing him almost instantly. The second, fired into his head as he lay lifeless on the floor, was a gruesome punctuation to the cold-blooded act. It was over in seconds. Deidre had executed her plan with chilling precision. After the murder, Deidre made a feeble attempt to cover her tracks. She called 911, feigning hysteria and claiming that she had acted in self-defense. She told police that Fred had been abusive, and that she had no choice but to protect herself and their child. It was a calculated move to elicit sympathy and obscure her true motives. However, investigators quickly saw through Deidre's facade. The evidence at the crime scene contradicted her claims of self-defense. Fred's body showed no signs of a struggle, and the position of the shotgun wounds indicated that he was unarmed and unaware of the attack. Additionally, Deidre's behavior raised red flags. Her demeanor was oddly detached for someone who had just killed her husband. The police also discovered Fred's life insurance policy, which had been recently updated to include a significant payout to Deidre. Combined with her history of financial recklessness and the premeditated purchase of the shotgun, the evidence painted a damning picture of her true intentions. Deidre Lane's trial in 2003 was a spectacle that captivated the nation. Prosecutors painted her as a manipulative, cold-blooded killer who had meticulously planned her husband's murder for financial gain. They presented overwhelming evidence of her greed, including the timeline of events leading up to the murder and the forensic analysis of the crime scene. The defense attempted to salvage Deidre's case by portraying her as a victim of domestic abuse. They argued that years of emotional and physical mistreatment had driven her to a breaking point, leading her to kill Fred in an act of desperation. However, this narrative unraveled under scrutiny. Witnesses who knew the Lanes testified that there was no history of abuse in their relationship, and Fred's character as a devoted father and husband stood in stark contrast to Deidre's claims. The most chilling moments of the trial came when prosecutors delved into Deidre's actions after the murder. Rather than showing remorse, she had continued to focus on her financial gains. Her lack of emotion and the sheer brutality of the crime left the courtroom in stunned silence. In March 2003, Deidre Lane was found guilty of voluntary manslaughter, a lesser charge than the prosecution had initially sought. She was sentenced to 7 years in prison, a sentence that many felt was far too lenient given the premeditated nature of the crime. The reduced charge and sentence sparked outrage, particularly among Fred's family and friends, who believed that justice had not been fully served. Fred Lane's murder left a deep scar on the Charlotte community and the world of professional sports. His promising career and bright future were cut short by an act of greed and betrayal. For Fred's family, the pain was compounded by the knowledge that his life had been taken by someone he trusted, a woman he loved and shared a child with. Deidre Lane was released from prison in 2010 after serving 6 years of her sentence. Her release reignited public discourse about the case, with many questioning whether she had paid her debt to society. Fred's family remained vocal in their grief, vowing to keep his memory alive and ensure that his tragic story was not forgotten. The story of Deidre Lane serves as a chilling reminder of how easily greed and deception can destroy lives. It is a tale that continues to haunt those who knew Fred Lane, as well as the wider community of Charlotte. The cold, calculated nature of the crime, the way Deidre carefully planned and executed her husband's murder, is a testament to the darkness that can lurk beneath the surface of seemingly ordinary lives. Fred Lane's legacy endures, not just as a talented athlete but as a loving father, son, and friend whose life was stolen in a moment of unimaginable betrayal. His story is a stark warning of the devastating consequences of unchecked greed and the lengths to which some will go to satisfy their desires. In the end, the tragedy of Fred Lane is one that leaves a chilling echo, a reminder that evil can often wear the mask of familiarity. When Deidre Lane walked out of prison in 2010, she entered a world that had not forgotten her crime. Though her physical sentence had ended, the weight of her actions continued to cast a long shadow. Charlotte, the city that had once celebrated the Lanes as part of its sports royalty, struggled to reconcile the horrors of the past with the person who now sought to rebuild her life. Fred Lane's family, particularly his father, Fred Lane Sr., became vocal advocates for domestic violence awareness, despite their firm rejection of Deidre's claims of abuse. For them, Fred's murder was not just a personal loss but a devastating blow to their faith in human decency. They often spoke to the media, recounting Fred's gentle nature and his hopes for the future dreams that had been extinguished by Deidre's calculated betrayal. Fred's young daughter, the most innocent casualty of this tragedy, grew up in the shadow of a crime that would forever define her family's history. Shielded from the public eye, she carried the burden of a father she would barely remember and a mother who had taken him away. As the years passed, Fred Lane's story remained a topic of fascination. True crime enthusiasts, legal scholars, and sports fans alike dissected the details of the case, grappling with its moral complexities. Was Deidre Lane truly a cold-blooded killer driven by greed, or was there a sliver of truth to her claims of domestic strife? Could the legal system have done more to ensure justice? These questions became fodder for books, documentaries, and podcasts. Some commentators criticized the justice system, arguing that the 7-year sentence for voluntary manslaughter trivialized Fred Lane's life and the calculated nature of his murder. Others viewed Deidre as a product of societal pressures, a woman trapped in a toxic marriage, driven to desperation by circumstances beyond her control. Regardless of perspective, the story of Deidre and Fred Lane continued to evoke strong emotions, ensuring its place in the cultural zeitgeist. The murder of Fred Lane is a textbook case of betrayal, an act committed not by a stranger, but by someone who shared his life, his home, and his trust. Psychologists and criminologists have analyzed the case, seeking to understand what could drive a person to commit such a heinous act against a loved one. Deirdre Lane's actions are often attributed to a combination of greed, entitlement, and a deeply narcissistic worldview. Her insistence on maintaining an extravagant lifestyle, even as her husband faced the natural decline of a professional athlete's career, suggested an inability to adapt to reality. Rather than supporting Fred through this transition, she saw his diminishing income as a threat to her comfort and ultimately as a problem to be eliminated. Experts also point to the dark triad of personality traits: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy that may have played a role in Deirdre's mindset. Her calculated actions, from researching life insurance payouts to purchasing the shotgun, indicate a chilling level of premeditation. Yet, her attempts to portray herself as a victim of abuse hint at a manipulative streak, aimed at controlling the narrative and deflecting blame. The ripple effects of Fred Lane's murder extended beyond his immediate family. For the Charlotte community, the crime shattered the illusion of invulnerability that often surrounds public figures. Fred's success story, which began in a small Tennessee town and culminated in the glitz of the NFL, was supposed to be a triumph. Instead, it became a cautionary tale of how even the brightest stars can be extinguished by the darkness within their own homes. The NFL, too, faced scrutiny in the wake of Fred Lane's death. The league had long been criticized for its handling of domestic violence cases, and while Fred's murder was not linked to allegations of abuse, it reignited conversations about the pressures athletes face in their personal lives. The tragic end of Fred Lane's career served as a stark reminder that fame and fortune do not guarantee safety or happiness. Even now, years after the murder, certain questions about the case remain unanswered. Why did Deirdre choose to kill Fred rather than pursue a divorce? Was the promise of a $5 million payout truly worth the risk of incarceration and the lifelong stigma of being a convicted killer? Did she believe that her version of events would be enough to sway a jury, or was she simply incapable of comprehending the consequences of her actions? For Fred's loved ones, these questions are a source of endless torment. They will never know what truly went through Deirdre's mind in those fateful moments on July 6, 2000. All they have are the cold, hard facts: Fred Lane is gone, and the person who took his life was the one who vowed to cherish and protect him. The story of Deirdre Lane and the murder of Fred Lane offers sobering lessons about the fragility of trust and the destructive power of greed. It reminds us that appearances can be deceiving and that even the most seemingly stable relationships can harbor deep-seated resentments and ulterior motives. For those who knew Fred, his legacy is a call to cherish the people we love and to remain vigilant against the forces that can tear families apart. For those who hear his story from a distance, it is a cautionary tale, a chilling example of how easily ambition and entitlement can spiral into tragedy. In the years since her release, Deirdre Lane has maintained a low profile, avoiding public scrutiny and attempts to delve into her post-prison life. She is a free woman now, but her freedom is tempered by the knowledge that she will forever be defined by her crime. To many, she remains the woman who betrayed Fred Lane, the NFL star who lost his life at the hands of someone he trusted. Fred's memory, meanwhile, lives on in the hearts of those who loved him and in the annals of sports history. His untimely death is a stark reminder that heroes, no matter how bright their light, are not immune to the darkness of human nature. As the years pass, the story of Deirdre and Fred Lane remains etched into the fabric of Charlotte's history, a chilling tale of betrayal, greed, and the devastating cost of unchecked ambition.